I'm an English lawyer and Spanish lawyer with my lawyer in Spain, and we have a dedicated visa team headed up by Melanie Radford there. And basically, we've got Lauren, Monica, and Laura also in the office, helping clients move to Spain, applying for their non-lucrative visa, the golden visa, visa renewals, and now today we're going to be talking about the new digital visa, which is really quite exciting. I'm going to share with you my screen. That's our contact details, and basically we will start. So, right. And just before we kind of get involved in the digital nomad side, I just want to talk to you about just some Spanish basics on residency. Okay, if you apply, the Spanish tax year runs from January to December, and if you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then you become a Spanish tax resident. Okay, so less than 3 months or less than 6 months in a year, and you're not a Spanish tax resident. More than 183 days, and you are a tax resident. And for example, if you moved to Spain this year, spent more than 183 nights in Spain, you would then present your Spanish tax return next year on worldwide assets and income. And less than 6 months, you're not a tax resident. Okay. And that is the definition of residency there. Basically, someone who stays in Spain for more than 183 days. It is the base of their economic activity, and or their spouse and minors habitually reside in Spain and they're financially dependent on that main applicant. Okay. If, for example, you've got a family living in Spain and one of the parents work abroad and are tax resident abroad, and they can prove that, then that residency for them can be dislodged. But these are the basics. Okay. Post Brexit, there's a kind of multitude of nationalities on this webinar. But for example, really the non-digital visa is applies to non-Europeans wishing to move to Spain to work. But for example, if you weren't working and you wanted solely to come to Spain, currently you could come on the tourist visa, so you can basically spend 90 days in a 180-day period in Spain, and most non-Europeans can travel to Spain without a visa, passport stamped when they arrive, and they've got to leave within 90 days. And what's actually happening now for British people arriving in Spain, which is something new for them, is their passport gets stamped on arrival, and also when they leave, and the 90 days within 180 days is counted like that. So that's the tourist visa. If you are moving to Spain and buying a property of more than 500,000 euros in the name of one person only, then you can apply for what's known as the golden visa. And that basically can be one property or properties. And this law actually came into force way back in 2013. And the Digital Nomad Visa, which is part of the new law approved towards the end of 2022, actually modifies this law. And I'll touch on that shortly. But basically, someone buys a property or owns a property of more than 500,000 euros, as in the price set out in the deed, and they've owned that in their name only since September 2013, they could apply for the golden visa. Or if they didn't want to buy a property and they invested monies in a bank account, or had investment funds, or invested in projects in Spain considered general interest, they could get the gold visa that way. And the beauty of the golden visa is that it allows you to work in Spain, whereas the non-lucrative visa, which again we'll touch about, doesn't allow you to work in Spain. And the main applicant for the golden visa would obtain their golden visa, and then their dependents, their direct dependents, spouse, children, could piggyback off their application and be granted that golden visa. And for the golden visa, you don't have to spend 183 nights in Spain. You don't have to become a tax resident. You just basically own the property and have to come into Spain for at least 1 day a year. The visa can be applied for from Spain or from the home consulate of the applicant, wherever the applicant lives. We would always recommend that it's applied for from here in Spain because it's quicker, and we deal with what's known as the UGE, Unidad de Grandes Empresas, based in Madrid. And the UGE have been tasked with delivering and implementing the Digital Nomad Visa as well, which we'll talk about shortly. So, non-lucrative visa, basically anyone applying, wishing to come to Spain for more than 90 days and 180 days, and then residing in Spain and not working, that would be the visa for you. If your pockets aren't deep enough for the golden visa or those other investments. Long-term residency, basically, once you've been here 5 years and you can prove that, and you haven't been out of the territory for more than 10 months in a 5-year period, you're entitled to long-term residency. So let's crack on with basically the new law, which is getting everyone excited. This was approved at the end of December. And as I said, this is basically Law 2822 is really a law about promoting ecosystems for emerging companies and has lots of tax benefits for innovative companies setting up in Spain. So that basically would be a kind of seminar we may or may not hold later on in the year, but our focus today is on a part of that, which is basically the international teleworkers. So as I mentioned earlier, this new law modifies the golden visa law of 2013 and adds international teleworkers. And the general requirements for the visa are that basically you have no criminal record in Spain or the country where you've lived for the last 2 years, and you would sign a statement to that effect. The initial golden visa has been modified. You used to get that for a 2-year period if you apply for it from Spain. That's now 3 years. And Spain has implemented with this law a kind of quicker route to get on to Social Security. Usually you had to do that with an NI number, which is a Spanish tax identification number, but now you can do that just with your passport, but you still need the NI, which we can help you with. We can help you apply for the NI using a power of attorney. You'd sign that in your home country or in Spain when you come over, and then we'd typically have the NI for you within about 10 days to 2 weeks. And that document is very important for Spain. If you open a bank account, buy a car, a house, set up a business, you'll need that NI. And then basically the new law updated the financial resources for people applying for the Digital Nomad Visa, and also stated again that you could have private or public insurance as part of the requirements to qualify for the visa. So Article 74 of the law defines digital nomads, or as more specifically international teleworkers, and basically this is a translation. So it's someone in a position of residency as a result of being an international teleworker from a non-European country, authorized to stay in Spain to carry out work or professional activity for companies located outside of Spain, exclusively using IT and telecommunication systems. And in the case of being employed, the teleworker can only work for companies located outside of Spain. Okay. And the other kind of business activity, so to speak, is someone who carries out a professional activity, specifically someone who's not employed, but someone who can work for companies located outside of Spain, and they could actually invoice part of their billing up to 20% to companies in Spain. So this, I believe, will probably attract professionals. This morning I was talking to a journalist, and he's already based in Madrid, but other journalists like him could follow to Spain because they work for international companies. They could work from Spain and invoice their overseas clients, and then maybe build up some activity here in Spain where they bill no more than 20% of their annual income to companies based in Spain. And this is really important. This is only applicable to people who don't have an EU passport. Okay, so this primarily dedicated to non-EU members. Okay, the requirements. These kind of requirements are part of what you'd have to prove when you're applying for the Digital Nomad Visa. You've got to prove that the company that you work for that's not located in Spain and has had a business of activity of at least 1 year. You've got to prove that you can work remotely. So basically, you've got the IT system in place. You can log in, etc., to the IT systems that that company may have, and you can work quite contently from here in Spain. And you've got to prove the working relationship of at least 3 months with that company. So prior to the application. So you can't basically say, look, I've just come across this company now and I'm going to apply for the digital visa. They've got to have been in business for at least a year, and you've got to have a working relationship with them going back 3 months. And they'll have to confirm confirm in a letter that you're allowed to carry out distance working and be based in Spain. If it's a professional, then a similar scenario. They've got to prove that they've been working with the company for at least 3 months, and they will have to set out terms and conditions of their activity. So typically that might be a services contract or an ongoing arrangement with a company. Again, I was talking to someone based in the United Emirates earlier today. They've got a company. They've been working for that company for the last 20 years. So they could prove that they've got a relationship with that company, and they provide professional services to that company. These are some of the other requirements. The visa for the first year is granted for 1 year, and towards the end of that visa, basically, I mean, it's granted for 1 year, but if you had a contract which was for less than a year, then it would be granted for that period. Okay, so basically, the Spanish authorities will look at the evidence provided from your overseas company and grant the visa based on that term. So if you've got an indefinite contract, then you would have to renew that visa on a regular basis. But first of all, the first visa is granted for 1 year. You have to renew that within 60 days of the visa expiry. Once after the first renewal, you can renew the visa for a period of 3 years. And the good news is that spouses and dependents can obtain the visa by the main applicant, and they can also work in Spain. The government was to basically, they inserted in the law that they would set up a working group to implement the law by the 31st of March. But actually, the UGE, which is the Unidad de Grandes Empresas that I mentioned, who already carry out they approve the visas for the golden visas that applied for from Spain. They've already put that in motion, and as far as we can see from the IT systems that we access and use to submit golden visas, that's all ready to be received. So actually, we believe that the first visas can be submitted, and we are preparing that at the moment. The digital nomad visa can actually be applied for from your home country, or it can be applied for from here in Spain. And there's just a little bit of difference of terminology. If you apply for it from your home country, then that's called a visa. If you apply for it from Spain, it's called a residency authorization. So this is probably one of the most important parts, income. How much income have you got to generate? So basically, when I finished university and I was working in a kind of little sweatshop answering telephone calls, we weren't earning €2,000 a month. We were earning about £800-900. But basically, what the Spanish authorities want is they want 200% of SMI. SMI is the measurement that they use for salary in Spain, and they don't want just 100% of that. They want 2 times that amount. So we've worked that out that it's approximately 2,333 euros gross. So that's the income that you would have to prove that you will receive in Spain to be entitled to apply for the digital nomad visa. So quite a high level there, I'd say. And if you're bringing family members over, then you've also got to have, if it's just a spouse, then you've got to add another 974 euros to that amount. And then for each child, 291 euros. So basically a family of two with one child would have to prove that they've got income coming in from the overseas company of at least 43,000 euros. Okay, so it's quite a high amount. But for a single applicant, 2,333 euros per month gross will be sufficient. So moving away from the digital nomad visa, if you are married to an EU spouse or have family members with EU passports, you might be able to apply for residency that way. You'd have to prove financial resources of up to 15,000 euros. And again, the kind of similar requirements as the golden visa and digital nomad visa will apply. You'll have to register on the Padron, which is the local census, to prove you're there. You'll have to have medical insurance in place, bank account. You have to prove that you've got sufficient monies in the bank account, and EU passport holders apply for residency from police stations in Spain. And then, for example, if they've got a non-EU based spouse or family member, we would present that application for them online. So basically, an Irish person married to a British person, the Irish person would apply for the residency in person at the police station, and then their spouses would be entitled to also apply for residency, but that would be submitted online. If you're buying a Spanish property, basically we could act for you in that, allow between 4 to 12 weeks for that. Mortgages, you could borrow probably typically up to 65% of the loan to value, and costs, depending on where you buy a property in Spain, allow 10 to 15%. Okay. Estate agents, generally speaking, aren't regulated. As soon as you've signed a contract and you've paid any deposit over, you are committed to that purchase. Okay. It's a binding contract. And here in the office, at my law in Spain, legal service in Spain, we have a dedicated team of bilingual and English, Spanish lawyers and paralegals who can help you buy property across the country. Spanish wills, we'd always recommend that you have a Spanish will. So if you open a bank account because you move over to Spain to buy assets, put in place a Spanish will. You can mitigate inheritance tax by having a Spanish will in place. And basically that brings to the end the presentation about the visas. So the digital nomad visa, the golden visa, and the non-lucrative visa. What I would say, this is a new law, so it's only just been implemented, and I do believe that, as the UGE deal with these applications, the system will get obviously a bit slicker and smoother, and there may be less documents or more documents to provide further down the line. But basically, it is good news. Spain wants to attract people who can work from Spain remotely. And again, just bear in mind, if you're living here for more than 183 days, then you'll become a Spanish tax resident. You'll pay tax in Spain on worldwide assets and income.